Good day, students. Today we are starting with chapter 2 in English, the tsunami. First of all, what do you mean by the word tsunami? Now, tsunami is a natural disaster. It's not man-made, it's a natural disaster caused by a series of waves which are caused by earthquake or volcanic eruption under the sea. So when there is an earthquake or volcanic eruptions under the sea, huge big waves are caused which are more than 800 meter high. Then it's called tsunami. Now you must have seen many disastrous movies which, like the Titanic, 40 Days and 40 Nights, The Wave, a Hindi movie, an old movie is there, Kala Patthar. These are the movies which shows disaster, what is a disaster, right? So in this chapter we are going to study about disaster. You must have seen these movies, they are real life movies, right? They get inspired on real life stories. So in reality, when such disasters happen, then they get ideas to make films on this. Now, so today's our topic is the tsunami. This tsunami which hit the Southeastern Asian countries on 26 December 2004 is considered to be one of the deadliest tsunamis of last nearly more than 5 decades. Now the story is divided into 3 parts. Part 1, like as I said, the areas affected by this deadliest tsunami was India, Thailand and Sri Lanka. So in the first part, we are going to study about the areas and the effects. See, each natural disaster has its after effects, right? The survival becomes very difficult. Some people, they die on the spot. Means each and every one where the disaster occurs are affected. So in the first part, we are going to study about the causes, not causes, the effects of tsunami in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Now, Andaman Nicobar are archipelagoes. What is an archipelago? Archipelago is a group of islands. When cluster of islands together, small group of islands, when you see together, that group of islands, collective noun for group of islands is called archipelago. So, Andaman Nicobar Islands are on the east and west side in the map of India. Now, the first part includes the stories where we have 6 characters. In that, the first character which we are going to study is about Ignatius. Ignatius, his wife and children, how this family was affected. Now, Ignatius was a manager in a cooperative bank. And what happens, like it was early in the wee hours where everyone were asleep. On 26 December 2004, early morning, 6 o'clock, his wife, Ignatius' wife, felt tremors and she immediately woke up Ignatius to take off the television set so that it would not fall and get damaged. So Ignatius immediately takes the TV set off the table and puts it down. Meantime, he and his wife saw the sea behaving in a different manner. They saw the sea rising. And what happens? His 2 children, as soon as they saw sea behaving in a different manner, they all started in chaos and confusion. They didn't know what to do and how to do. So they started running here and there. So out of that, his 2 children, Ignatius' 2 children, hold the hand of his Ignatius' father-in-law, that is his wife's father. 2 children hold the hand of his mother's father and brother-in-law, and they started running in opposite direction. Opposite direction means they started running in opposite direction means towards the sea. And unfortunately, Ignatius could not see them back again. Only 3 children who were left behind with him could survive with him. So that was about Ignatius. Ignatius was a manager of a cooperative society in Kachchal. Now, Kachchal is an island in Nicobar archipelago. The third character is Sanjeev. Sanjeev was a policeman. He had only 3 were living in the family, wife and a baby daughter. Now when he saw the waves coming, immediately a huge wave came and swept his wife and daughter away. But anyhow, Sanjeev managed to escape with his wife and daughter. But when they were moving ahead, Sanjeev just heard cries for help. Who was crying? Who was calling for help? He had a cook whose name was John, and John's wife was calling out Sanjeev for help. So being on humanitarian ground, Sanjeev went for help to relieve the cook's wife. But both could not survive. They both were swept away. So see, the deadliest tsunami, it had already taken the lives of, here till 4 characters we learned. So only Sanjeev's wife and daughter could survive, but Sanjeev and the cook's wife could not. They all swept away. Now the another character is Meghna, who was a 13-year-old girl, and she was swept away along with her parents. And along with Meghna's family, 77 other people were also washed away. And anyhow, she could find a wooden door, and she clings to the wooden door and she starts floating, because as you know, wood can float. So she puts herself, she manages to hold the wooden door, and the wooden door keeps floating. When she was floating, 11 times she saw the relief helicopters. What are relief helicopters? Relief helicopters are those helicopters which come for rescue operations usually during the disaster, when floods are there, when earthquakes are there, when help is not possible from down, means from the earth, then they get help by managing from above. So those are relief helicopters. 11 times she could see the relief helicopters, but there was so much destruction that the pilots in the helicopter could not see her. And then after a few days, she was brought to the shore. How she came on the shore? She was alive. How she came? She was found on the shore by a huge wave, and she was found walking on the shore in a daze. Daze means she was so confused, she did not have senses. She was so much shocked. Emotionally and physically, she was in so much shock that she was just walking on the seashore, but she did not have any senses. Now the 6th character on Andaman Nicobar Island which we are learning is Almas Javed. Almas Javed was a 10-year-old girl, and she was a student of Carmel Convent School in Port Blair. Now Port Blair is in Andaman Nicobar, whereas Kachal Island is in Nicobar Islands. Now Almas Javed was a 10-year-old girl. She was a student of Carmel Convent, and her father had a petrol pump, and mother's house was in Nankauri Island, and this family had gone there to celebrate Christmas. See, it happened just on the next day of Christmas. So family had gone there to celebrate Christmas. So when tremors came early in the morning, Almas Javed family was asleep. But one of the members, they saw the sea recede. Recede means moving back. Suddenly sea moving back, that means they came to know that the sea is moving back, means the waters will rush back with a great force. So the father understood that something wrong is going to happen. So he tried woking everybody, okay, come on, get up, something unusual is going to happen. The signs which sea is giving is not fair enough. As they ran, the grandfather and the entire family started running, and as soon as they all were running, something suddenly hit on grandfather's head and he suddenly fell down. Her father, Alma's father, he rushed to help him, but then a huge giant wave, I told you tsunami waves are 600 to 800 meters high. So a huge giant wave came and swept both of them away. That means Alma's grandfather also died and Alma's father also died. Now Alma's mother and her aunts, they stood clinging, holding something, to hold something and stand for a support. Alma's mother and her aunts stood clinging on the coconut tree that they might get saved. Suddenly a huge big wave came and uprooted the whole tree. The tree was uprooted, the whole tree was removed from the earth and it swept away. They all were crying for help, but in a wink of an eye, the aunt and the mother also were swept away. During this time, Alma saw a log of wood. Log is a piece of wood. When there is a piece of wood, you call it a log. So Alma saw a log of wood, and then she climbed on it, and then she fainted. Fainted means she became unconscious. she lost her senses. And when she woke up, that means when she came to senses, she found herself in a hospital in Kamorta. From there she was brought to Port Blair. So from the hospital she was brought back to Port Blair. Now the girl doesn't want to discuss to anybody regarding this incident because she was traumatized. Traumatized means greatly shocked. She doesn't want to keep on discussing and narrating this incident again and again because she is still traumatized. Traumatized means, it is here in the textbook, greatly shocked or distressed. When you keep on asking the same thing, and that also about sad incidences, one gets irritated. So that was about part 1. Now we come to part 2. Part 2, the area affected is Thailand and especially the Phuket beach. Now on this beach, there was a British family where the incident is highlighted, Tilly Smith. Now Tilly Smith is a British girl and Penny and Colin Smith are Tilly's parents. Now this was a family who had come from England to celebrate Christmas here. And Tilly Smith is a 7-year-old girl and she had been triggered by a massive earthquake in the north. They experienced this because they were present there on 26 December 2004. They had already came from England to celebrate Christmas here. Now the mother is telling the water was continuously coming in and the beach where they were standing and when they were enjoying, the beach was becoming smaller and smaller because the water level was increasing. Now, during this time, Tilly realized that something wrong is happening, something was wrong. So her mind kept on thinking that these signs which sea is giving are not fair enough. So she was immediately able to recall a geography lesson which she had seen in a video just 2 weeks back when she was in school in England. There her geography teacher had shown a video and taught about how to escape, what are the signs of tsunami and how to escape when you face such a disaster. So same signs which Tilly saw in the video, she saw the sea slowly rise, foam bubbles and creating whirlpools. What are whirlpools? The water continuously moving in circular motion because she has seen this in a video and that video was of that tsunami that hit the Hawaiian Islands in 1946. So she was immediately able to recall all this, what was happening just in front of her eyes. And then she also remembered what her geography teacher had told her, that tsunami is caused by earthquakes or volcanic eruptions under the sea. So as soon as Tilly saw all this, she started screaming loudly in a hysterical manner. Hysterical means you shout, you cry, you laugh, but there is no control on yourself. So she became restless, she became hysterical, and she started that I don't know what tsunami was, but her mother said that seeing my girl so much frightened and hysterical, we knew that something wrong is happening. And Tilly took her parents and her sister away from the beach to a swimming pool in the hotel. So they moved away from the beach. And along with them, there were other tourists also who were on the beach. They all also ran along with them to the hotel and there they took refuge. Refuge means a safer place from the trouble, from the affected area. There they took the refuge on the 3rd floor of the hotel. So from the whole hotel withstood 3 huge waves of tsunami. So if they were there on the beach, they would have not been alive today because they went on the 3rd floor. Yes, waters were there, but they were able to save their lives because they took refuge on the 3rd floor of the hotel. And the Smiths, that means Smiths means the Smith family, then they met the other tourists who had lost either of the family members and who were very sad. But at the end of the second part, thanks to the geography teacher who had guided Tilly to how to rescue during such disaster. And when Tilly returns back to England, she also shares the eyewitness of the tsunami which hit the Phuket beach on 26 December 2004. She also narrates this to her classmate. Now we come to the third part of the lesson, that is the coast of India and Sri Lanka. In the third part, we are going to study about the areas affected in coast of India, Cuddler Coast, Tamil Nadu and Sri Lanka. Now, what happened to the animals in the zoo? Now, third part includes about the acute hearing senses of the animals. They say that animals have sixth sense, that they are sensing the danger before the humans can know. Now, here I want to tell you that whenever there is any natural calamity or when you are in trouble, what is the first thing you do to, what is the first thing you try to save yourself? That is a selfish human being. Though we are considered as a topmost creation in God's crown, but we human beings are very selfish, because when it comes to saving of life, we try to save our lives first, right? So what about other creatures? What about animals? What about birds? So God has given them sixth sense to try them to save themselves during such dangers. So here in this third part, it is discussed about, do you believe that animals have sixth sense? Now here, the animals in the zoo, anyhow they came to know that something wrong is going to happen today morning, and whatever their daily routine, their daily activities, there was a great change in their activities. They were not ready to come out, they were not ready to go for a walk. That is discussed in the third part of the lesson. Before the giant waves slammed into the coast in Sri Lanka, the animals fled to safety. Fled means they ran to safety. Like if you say the elephants screamed, they started shouting, and they were hunting for a higher ground. Why higher ground? They were already there, but they wanted to move away from the place where they are. Then the dogs refused to go out. Wherever they are, they wanted to keep themselves inside rather than going in an open area. Then flamingos, where you see flamingos in the areas where there is water. So that day, even flamingos tried to left their low-lying breeding areas and rushed to other places. And the animals in the zoo, they ran back into their shelters, and they were not enticed. Enticed means attracted, even by showing something to come out. They were not ready to come out. This shows that they had sensed the danger which was going to come. So many people, they believe, and now it is a myth whether you believe or you don't believe. But as I told you, we human beings, we try to save ourselves first. So maybe God has given animals and birds this sixth sense so they can sense the danger and try to save themselves. Now here, in this third part, it is shown that 150,000 people were killed, but hardly any animals were not found. Hardly means no, and very few. Only 2 buffaloes here, if I'll discuss in the coming point. Very few animals and birds were found to be killed in this tsunami. We cannot be sure, but the giant waves that rolled through the Indian Ocean killed 150,000 people. But not, as the report says, not many animals have been reported dead. Along India's Cuddler Coast, there were thousands of people perished. Thousands of people died. But buffaloes, goats and dogs were found unharmed. Dogs, buffaloes and goats were found unharmed. Then comes to our neighboring country, the southernmost neighboring country, that is Sri Lanka. And Sri Lanka, there is a Yala National Park, which is famous for nearly 130 species of birds. More than 130 species of types of birds it has. Now, in this Yala National Park, because it was a national park and it was, as I told, 26 December, it was a Christmas vacation. So, 60 visitors were washed away. Who were present there in the Yala National Park, 60 visitors were washed away from the Patangala beach, which is a very famous beach in Sri Lanka. 60 visitors were washed away, but no animal carcasses were found. What do you mean by carcasses? Carcasses is a word here. Carcasses means the dead body of an animal. See, 60 visitors are washed away, but reports have suggested that no animal carcasses were found. Dead bodies of animals were not found except only 2 water buffaloes. Water buffaloes, you must have seen water buffaloes who like their bodies to be submerged in the water. Only those 2 buffaloes are supposed to be swept away with a huge flow of water. The rest, only 60 visitors were washed away. About why? Why here no animal? Because just an hour before the tsunami hit, that is, tsunami hit around 6 o'clock, an hour before tsunami hit, the people at Yala National Park, they observed, those who were present there, they observed that the behavior of the animals changed. For example, the elephants started running away from the Patangala beach. The animals went inside their shelters. They were not enticed to come out. And in another region of Sri Lanka, that is in Gale, it is an incident mentioned, the last incident, about a gentleman who used to take his dog for a daily walk. And that particular day, the dogs refused to come out of the house and they were not ready to go. Usually, every day they used to go, but on that particular day, they refused to go, and that way, the dogs could save the life of his master. Now, what do you learn? What is the conclusion? The conclusion of this lesson is that, children, when we are in problem, especially when we are in the middle of a calamity or a disaster, then only we value our life. Unless and until you are in problem, you are facing calamity, or you are in the mid of a danger, you don't realize the importance of your life, right? So one thing I want to teach you, that value your life. Your life is very precious. It is a God-gifted life. You value your life. Another thing is participate in relief work. What do you mean by relief work? Relief work means helping others, rescuing, saving others, not only human beings but also the animals and birds and whoever are needing the help at that particular time. As I discussed, that you try to save yourself and then you just ignore the others. No, try to participate in relief work. Help the others who are in need during the natural calamity or man-made calamity. That is called relief work. By any way you can help. Right? And the third one is understand the concept of disaster management. Disaster management, you must have seen the NDRF team, National Defense Rescue Force team. So you have to understand the concept of disaster management, how this team works. You must have seen the flood affected areas in many parts of the country, how this NDRF team goes, helps them, saves them. So this lesson teaches you about value of life, changing your attitude about saving the life of not only the human beings, but also you should be kind to animals and other creatures who are in danger. And you should understand, or at least you should have that much consciousness that on the spot what decision you should take when you are in mid of a disaster or you are facing any natural calamity or any man-made disaster. On this note, I am ending the lesson. We'll be meeting you soon back with another topic. Thank you.